Hey everyone, so just a quick reminder of how to solve a quadratic equation for the roots. So we're trying to find the roots. Remember, that's the same thing as zeros or x-intercepts or solutions. So to find the solution, we need to first move everything to the left side. Or you can move everything to the right side, but I think it'll be easier if we move it all to the left side. So I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to minus this 2 on both sides. Notice how it lines up with the -8 because both of those are constants. And then I'm also going to minus the 6x. And then I also have to do that on the other side. Make sure it lines up with the 5x. Remember, you can only subtract x's from other x's. So let's see what we get. So we've got 3x squared is still there. 5x minus 6x is -1x. And -8 minus 2 is -10. On the other side, 2 minus 2 is 0, 6x minus 6x is 0, so we have nothing on the right side. And that's exactly what we wanted. Okay, so now is the part where we can actually factor that trinomial on the left. We start by identifying our a, b, and c values and making our eye chart. I'm going to do it over here to the right. Our a value is 3, because that's what's in front of the x squared. Our b value is -1, and our c value is -10. So when we make our eye chart, remember that the goal is to find things that multiply to give us what value? We multiply these two and we get -30. So everything that's in the center are things that multiply to give us 30. So let's think about what that is. That's -1 times 30. That's 1 times -30. One of the terms has to be negative. Let's remember that. It's -2 times 15. It's 2 times -15. It's -3 times 10. It's 3 times -10. And we only have just a few more here. In fact, I will maybe extend my table. We also have -5 times 6 and 5 times -6. I think that's all of the whole numbers that will multiply to give you -30. One of the numbers has to be negative. Keep that in mind. Okay. Now we put the b value at the bottom. The b value was -1. And so we're trying to find which of these pairs that are in our eye chart will add. I'm going to write the word on there, add up to equal -1. Okay. So you can add them up if you want. Add these two in your calculator and you would get 29. That's definitely not it. Add the next ones, you'll get -29. Nope. And then keep going and keep going and keep going, and hopefully we realize that it is right here. Oh, wrong one. I actually did that one incorrectly myself. That. Because if we added those two together, we would get +1, and we want -1. So the correct answer is actually 5 and -6, because those will add up to -1, the b value. But they still multiply to give you that -30 that's in the top of your eye chart. So the next step is to rewrite our equation. The 3x squared stays the same, but the middle number splits. And what does it split into, you might ask? Look right here at the bottom, the 5 and the -6. So the -1x splits into a +5x and a -6x. Yes, they do need to have x's, because if we have a term, -1x, that's splitting, it needs to split into two things that are also x's. Bring down the -10 and bring down the 0. So notice everything stayed the same except for this part. That is what changed. The -1x split into two terms. And you'll notice if you combine those two terms, 5x and -6x, 5 minus 6 is in fact -1. Now, what is our goal right now? Our goal next is that we're trying to factor by grouping. So we need to group things. We're going to group the first two terms and group the second two terms. So start out by finding what the GCF is of the first group. Now 3 and 5, there is nothing that divides evenly into 3 and 5 besides 1. Guess what? 1 is a factor of everything. But they do both have x's. So our GCF is x, and it goes on the outside of the parentheses. And then we divide both of the terms by the GCF. So 3x squared divided by x is 3x. 5x divided by x is 5. Now let's look at the GCF of the second set of parentheses, negative 6x minus 10. Now, if your GCF, if the first number in your parentheses is negative, that means your GCF is going to be negative. And the largest number that 6 and 10 are both divisible by is 2. And it's not 2x, because notice that both terms don't have an x, so we cannot factor an x out of that binomial. I'm going to go ahead and put my equals 0 so I don't forget. So now divide them both by that GCF of negative 2. Negative 6 divided by negative 2 is positive 3x. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 is positive 5. So notice that the ones in parentheses are the same. That's excellent. That means you know you're moving in the right direction. One of our factors is 3x plus 5. To get the other factor, what I do is I mark these out and I see what's remaining, and those go into a parenthesis. That's my other factor. So if you're asked to factor a trinomial, we just did it. But we also want to know what are the solutions. It is factored now, so we need to use each of those two factors to find the solutions. So I'm going to do this one first. I'm going to set the first factor equal to 0. Now think about how you would solve that equation. How are you going to get x by itself? You start out by minusing the 5 on both sides. 5 minus 5 is 0. So we've got 3x equals negative 5, because 0 minus 5 is negative 5, and divide by 3. So one of our roots is negative 5/3. Now let's do the same thing with the other factor. X minus 2 equals 0. To get x alone and get rid of a minus 2, we add 2 to both sides, the opposite. We get 0. So now we have an x alone, and 0 plus 2 is 2. That's your other root. So remember, these are called solutions, but they are also called roots. They're also called x-intercepts, and they're also called zeros. Now there's many ways you might see the answers written. They might be written as x equals negative 5/3 and x equals 2, just written as two separate things. You might also see them written together in brackets, listed, usually listed with the smaller one going first. So keep that in mind that you could see the answer written two different ways. So we do have two x-intercepts for this quadratic function. Okay. If you have any questions, make sure to let me know. And I do have tutoring tomorrow morning, Thursday at 8 a.m. Hope to see you there. Bye, guys.